Hi, I'm Lindsay Wachter, and I'm the Wellness Manager at Wesley Acres. I'm speaking with you today about the Make It Okay campaign. Our organization knows that 2020 was a tough year and that the winter months are upon us, and they can be very difficult with seasonal affective disorder, also known as the winter blues. We want to start opening up the conversation around mental health, so we're starting here. If you give me just a moment, I'm going to get to my slideshow. We're all learning about technology, continue to do so. So give me a moment. Perfect. So I just want to talk to you a little bit first about the Healthiest State Initiative. This program, Make It Okay, is being brought to you from the Healthiest State Initiative. The Healthiest State Initiative is a nonprofit organization that was launched in 2011 to bring together public, private, and nonprofit partners from across the state to support the efforts to make Iowa the healthiest state in the nation by improving the physical, social, and emotional well-being of Iowans. There's plenty of data available to reinforce the importance of talking about mental health as much as we talk about our physical health. This slide here shows information gathered from a community needs assessments in 2016. In 2016, mental health was identified as a top health issue in 86 of the 99 counties. Recognizing that in order for Iowa to become the healthiest state in the nation, we needed to support conversations around mental health, including the stigma of mental illness. The Healthiest State launched Make It Okay in Iowa in 2019. I'm here today to talk about mental illnesses. I know it can be a hard subject for many to discuss openly, and my goal here is to help you become more comfortable with it. I'm not an expert on mental illnesses or mental health care, but I do feel strongly about stopping the stigma surrounding them. So, what is Make It Okay? Make It Okay is a community campaign to reduce stigma by increasing understanding and creating caring conversations around mental illnesses. Stigma is a difficult issue, a complex issue, so the solution from Make It Okay is simple: get people talking. Make It Okay has a simple but very important message, and that is okay to talk about mental illness, to have a mental illness, to get support for a mental illness, and to love a person with a mental illness. So here's a brief video that I want to share with you.
Thank you. Hey.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. So, how was your weekend?
It was good. How about you?
Yeah.
Meh. What's that? What does meh mean?
Well, with depression, some days are good days and some days are bad days. And yesterday was not one of my good days.
Silence. It makes the mental illness stigma even worse.
Do you want to talk about it?
Learn what to say at makeitokay.org.
So as you can see in the ad, by the big empty talk bubble, is that silence has a huge effect on the conversation regarding mental illness. With silence, people can feel alone and uncomfortable sharing how they're feeling. By starting a conversation, people know that someone cares for their well-being. Videos like this one, testimonials, and several other resources can be found online at makeitokay.org/Iowa.
Thank you.
So you may be asking yourself now, so how do we start talking about changing attitudes and reducing stigma? It's by learning, talking, and sharing. What is a stigma? Learn its impact, common diagnosis and symptoms. Talk about scenarios, practicing tips for talking, what to say, what not to say, and by sharing how to help and what you can do to make it okay. So by definition, stigma is a set of negative beliefs that a society has about something. It's a negative perception that causes someone to devalue or think less of the whole person, stereotyping or labeling a person because of their condition. Stigma exists when it comes to mental illness. Studies show that people's knowledge of mental illness is rather limited, and because of that, there are beliefs that somehow mental illness is related only to stress or lack of willpower or some kind of weakness of character or moral failure. Mental illness cannot be overcome by just getting it together, because just like any medical condition, it's biological in nature. So just thinking a moment to yourself, what kind of images are used to portray people experiencing mental illness? Common stereotypes that surround mental illnesses, such as violent, dangerous, institutionalized, or out of control, are made to appear that this is the majority of what occurs when someone has a mental illness. However, it couldn't be further from the truth. The reality of mental illness is in these images. The person may be a celebrity, someone we look up to and can relate to. Maybe it's our neighbor, our loved one, or maybe it's ourselves. Mental illnesses affect every age, every race, every gender, every occupation. It does not discriminate. Once we understand that, we can better understand that it's okay to talk about mental illnesses, because it is in fact so common. In fact, it's so common that 1 in 5 people will experience a mental illness at some point in their life. About 1 in 10 people will experience a more serious mental illness, such as schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Putting all of this into perspective, about 1 in 8 people will have diabetes, and yet how we talk about these conditions is very different. That is because of stigma. Matter of fact, we know that most people have been touched by mental illnesses themselves or someone close to them. And that's why learning, talking, and sharing is so important. It helps to stop the stigma. So let's talk about stigma for just a moment. What are common terms for describing a person experiencing cancer? Something you might think of. Warrior, fighter, brave, strong. Those words come pretty quickly to our minds. They're all reassuring terms and rightfully deserved by those that experience cancer. Now, what kind of common terms do you think of someone for describing someone with a person experiencing a mental illness? Common terms that you may hear: crazy, wacko, psycho, OCD. Again, unfortunately, those words come pretty quick to our minds. We may not feel as comfortable saying these words because of their negative meanings. People that experience mental illnesses are as deserving of the words warrior, fighter, brave. So why do we think that there is such a great difference in the words used to describe these two illnesses? Why are there more negative thoughts and emotions that come to mind when someone's experiencing a mental illness? Stigma. This stigma impacts how each of us think about, talk about, and even treat people experiencing a mental illness, whether we know it or not. Therefore, we can all start by eliminating stigma today by not only learning and understanding that mental illness is a medical condition, just like cancer or diabetes is a medical condition, but also by starting to change the words that are so common in our vocabulary when describing mental illness. Rather than saying, this person is crazy, or I'm so OCD about my desk, replace this with empathy. I can't imagine what that person is experiencing, or I really prefer to have my desk well organized. We don't say she is cancer, we say she has cancer. Why is it easier to describe a person experiencing a mental illness as if it is their whole identity? He is bipolar versus he has bipolar. We will know that we're making progress when the same words are used to describe both mental illness and cancer or any other medical conditions. Here's a quote for you. We are taught as children about illness like colds, broken bones, or surgeries, but mental illnesses aren't discussed. Mental illness should be discussed like diabetes. It needs to be seen as a normal illness. This quote does a great job of capturing the message of make it okay. Why it matters. Stigma may be a barrier to seeking support and care, can lead one to isolation, losing their job and income. For students dropping out of school, maybe even having jail time, and potentially even suicide. It's okay to have mental illness because it's a medical illness, not a character flaw. Mental illnesses are biological in nature. It can be caused by environment, genetics, chemical imbalances, trauma. They can be treated just like any other illnesses, such as diabetes. Here are some common symptoms. Thinking about changes in sleep, difficulty thinking, delusions, hallucinations, impulsiveness, persistently sad. Make It Okay is not intended to diagnose or treat mental illnesses, but it's good to know that there are symptoms associated with the various diagnoses. This list is not exclusive nor exhaustive. These symptoms are different than other illnesses. We can't detect it in a blood test or lump on the skin. Symptoms will show up differently for different people. Again, this presentation's purpose is not to diagnose, but to help everyone become familiar with these different diagnoses and recognize that it's important to ask your health provider about symptoms as they might arise. Just as there is a word for the illness diabetes, there are words for different mental illnesses. It can take weeks to months or even years to diagnose and must be made by a physician. It's important to practice saying these words out loud. We shouldn't whisper the word bipolar. We shouldn't be afraid of the word schizophrenia. Getting comfortable with these words and learning more about them is the first step to stopping stigma. It's okay to have a mental illness because they are treatable and life can get better. Most mental illnesses can be treated effectively with medication, therapy, diet, exercise, and support, and recovery is possible. The sooner that people can get treatment, the greater their chances of recovery. As with any illness, it's better to identify and treat it early before someone becomes seriously ill. Tips for supporting someone with mental illness: stop the silence, just be nice, listen, keep in contact, don't ignore it or them, offer help, and keep the conversation moving. Offer to connect them to resources or engage in self-care together. This is the most visited page on the website. It offers positive and helpful language to negative phrases that are not so helpful when talking with an individual that is experiencing a mental illness. Don't say it could be worse, snap out of it, we've all been there, try thinking happy thoughts. Instead, say things like, thanks for opening up to me, how can I help? Do you want to talk about it? How are you feeling today? So if anything, I hope that you'll take a few key messages away from today. Mental illness is common. Mental illness is a treatable health condition. Stigma keeps people from getting treatment. Learning and talking openly helps to reduce stigma. Reducing stigma can save lives, and it's never too late and never too early to get help for a mental illness. So where can you start to help make it okay? A simple place to begin is by taking the pledge. Visiting makeitokay.org/Iowa to take the online pledge or print the pledge and hang it up as a reminder. The 3 steps to make it okay: learn, talk, and share the message. You can request a speaker for a different group that you might be involved in. You can become an ambassador to help spread the word. And Wesley Acres is a registered workplace. And I know other locations are also looking at doing this as well. Some additional resources are NAMI, NAMIiowa.org, YourLifeIowa.org, and then Make It Okay has some great resources for talking about mental illnesses. And then also there's podcasts and different things you can listen to keep yourself in a positive light. So I hope that you were able to enjoy the conversation today. Let me stop my screen here. I really appreciate you hanging in and listening to the whole message here. Mental health is a big problem in the world today, especially coming off a pretty rough year and then getting into 2021, having some lingering effects from the prior year. So just know that your wellness team at your location is here for you. Your leaders are here for you, your family, your friends. Everyone's here for you. It's okay to talk about. It's a real thing. Don't think that you are crazy. So please reach out if you need anything at all. Thank you so much for joining me today. Take care.